Well, Jason is here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Hey,
we're sharing this.
just got in. I'm coming from Quincy every day, so it's a pain.
All right. So I'm just gonna. It's 6 p.m. now. So in fairness of time, I'm just gonna start the meeting. Just want to welcome everyone to the May 10th Commission on Disabilities meeting. If we could do the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start off with that. I have the trusty little flag here, and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we do a roll call of the members, Pauline?
Sure thing. So Ralph DeChico, our chair.
Here.
Pauline Perno, co-chair, is here. Mario Gramanis.
Here.
Okay, Jason Barone.
He's here. He just went to the other room, but he's here. We're sharing the iPad. Yeah.
Thank you. We're still waiting on Asma. She has not.
Yeah, she can come, she'll join in, but we'll mark her as absent for now.
Okay. And Robert,
He's going to be absent tonight. Okay.
we'll mark her as absent for now, and Robert Brown is absent.
Yeah. He'll
Great,
be.
thank you so much.
Okay, item number 1 was a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the April 12th meeting. I sent that out to the commission members on Friday to overlook. If there was anyone seen any errors or anything that was incorrect, if you want to let me know, I can make some changes on that. If not, if someone would like to make a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve them.
We make motion to approve.
And Mario will second it.
Thank you, Mario.
Okay. Item number 2, which I'm happy to introduce Sarah. I don't want to mispronounce your last name. I should have asked you. Is it Nietzscheman?
Neckerman.
Okay, Neckerman. She's the outreach and training specialist from DPPC, which is the Disabled Persons Protection Commission. She's going to discuss some abuse of disabled persons and how to access their hotline and report any instances of abuse of a disabled person, along with what signs to look for. I don't know if I'll turn it over to you, and you can give a little background, and you can take over and I give you the sharing of your screen. And if that doesn't work, I have your presentation that I can bring up on the screen.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to be talking for just a few minutes about the DPPC, who we are, our hotline, both in case any of you ever have opportunity to suspect abuse of a person with a disability, or in case you want to send this information around at all. You have important connections to the rest of your town, and we're really trying to get the word out about who we are and make sure that more people are familiar with us and able to report abuse when they see it or suspect it. So the DPPC is an independent state agency. We investigate abuse by caregivers against adults with disabilities. So by adults, we're talking about folks between the age of 18 and 59 at the time of abuse. There's no statute of limitations for reporting abuse to us. If someone was abused 10 years ago, as long as they were within that age range at the time, you can still report it and we'll investigate it. By disability, we're talking about folks who need some assistance with their daily living needs. So that can be help with transportation, medication, finances, or more basic stuff, showering, food, things like that. And we specifically look at abuse by caregivers. So those are people who are helping someone meet those daily living needs, helping them with transportation, with showering, with medication, whatever it might be. So that can be, a paid professional, like a PCA, like a transportation driver, or it can be unpaid, a family member who's just living with the person or helping them out every now and then. Some of you might be familiar with Child Protective Services or Department of Children and Families. We do similar investigation work, just in a different population. So this graphic kind of shows how we fit in with them and one other agency. So if the victim is age 17 or younger, whether they have a disability or not, that report would go to the Department of Children and Families, and their number is 1-800-792-5200. If they're 18 to 59 and they have a disability, that comes to us. If they are 60 or older, that goes to the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, whether they have a disability or not. That number is 1-800-922-2275. I like to include them because a lot of commissions on disability work pretty closely with, the senior center or, similar organizations. So that number is there as well if you need it. If you, though, suspect abuse of someone in our age range, 18 to 59, you would call this number. This is our 24/7 abuse reporting hotline. The number is 1-800-426-9009. I'd recommend writing this down or putting it in your phone, whatever is going to make it available to you if you ever need it. Anytime you call this number, you'll get a live person on the other end. They'll ask you some basic questions: what happened, when, where, who was involved. Answer anything you can. If you don't have the information, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say it over and over again if you really don't know. That's just the process. We had someone report once and all they had was a license plate number. We were still able to investigate. You also don't need to have proof to report. Okay, all you need is suspicion. You suspect that something might be happening here. Okay, so you don't need evidence. You don't need to have conducted your own investigation. You just have to think, I think something is going wrong here. Now, once you make that report, it's going to go into the hotline. The hotline person is going to send that report to one or several of a few places. If it is screened in, meaning it's between the age of 18 and 59, there's a caregiver, there's something that might be interpreted as abuse, then it will get assigned an investigator. These are civil investigators, not criminal, so they're basically fact finders. They're trying to figure out what happened, and they will collect evidence and conduct interviews. So if you make a report, you'll probably get contacted by an investigator pretty early on if it gets screened in, so that they can interview and ask you some more detailed questions. If the investigator finds that abuse did happen, they can make these protective services recommendations. So these are either to support the victim in moving on from the abuse, things like counseling, healthcare, peer support, transportation, or preventing future abuse. So respite services are the resources for a caregiver who's maybe just overwhelmed. Resources for professional caregivers like staff training and policy changes, staffing ratio changes, or agency action. So we cannot fire people as DPPC. We don't have the authority, but the agencies that are employing these professional caregivers are often looking to our investigation to decide what they should do. Should they keep this person? Should they fire them? We also have a new abuser registry, specifically for professional caregivers working through the Department of Developmental Services. If they have committed abuse, they can get put on this registry, and that means that they cannot keep their current job or get a new job working with that same agency, with that same population. So that's to stop folks from abusing somebody over here and turning it around and doing it somewhere else. So those are the investigators. We can also send cases to other agencies as necessary. So Department of Children and Families or EOEA if it's outside of our age range, Department of Public Health, other agencies like that. So if you send us a report and it turns out we can't investigate it for whatever reason, not the biggest deal, we'll just send it to someone who can. We have a state police detective unit located at DPPC. They are screening every report that comes in for criminal abuse and can conduct a criminal investigation alongside our civil investigation. So that just makes sure that there's more communication and information sharing between those two groups. And then we have our sexual assault response unit, which is screening all of the reports for sexual abuse, and they can work directly with survivors to help get them the resources and support that they need. I want to briefly mention mandated reporters, in case anyone on this call happens to be a mandated reporter, or if you know of any mandated reporter groups in town who would benefit from more information on this. Mandated reporters are specific professions that are more likely to be aware of abuse. So these are people like medical professionals, teachers, police officers. Those last two bullets are like staff of group homes, day programs, residential centers. Mandated reporters are legally required to report when they have suspicion of abuse. Anybody can report and should, but mandated reporters are legally required to. So we offer some additional training for mandated reporters specifically. Hour and a half, we can do it virtual, we can do it in person. So if you know of anyone who would benefit from that, feel free to connect us. We can also do trainings for non-mandated reporters as well. And this is my contact information. My email address is sarah.neckerman@mass.gov. If you want to coordinate a training, if you want us to mail out some resources, some brochures, if you just want any questions answered, anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email and we can do that. And I am going to stop sharing my screen. If anyone has any questions at this point, I'm happy to answer those.
I have, yeah, thank you, Sarah. I have a couple of quick questions. One is the hotline. Is it just in English, or is there other languages that the hotline can be answered in or directed in?
You know, it's a good question. I have not actually heard the answer to that. I would imagine so, but I would need to look into that, and I'll shoot you an email once I find out. I know we have options for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, but I'll check about the other.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, because they're not seeing the TTY, but I'm just wondering, you know, if someone does not speak, speak English and they want to report it. Also, if somebody does want to make a report, is it done anonymously?
It can be. We encourage people to give their names and their contact information because that just makes things easier for the investigator. You know, reporters have a lot of important information that the investigator would have a harder time doing their investigation without that. But the hotline won't turn down anonymous reports. However, mandated reporters, if they make an anonymous report, that doesn't fulfill their mandated reporter requirement, because we can't prove that they ever made the report.
Okay.
Sarah, I have a question for you. What do you, I don't know if you've found this, or what do you think is the #1 reason people won't report?
It depends who you're asking. If you're asking professionals who a lot of the time would be making reports on their coworkers, they're worried about making their coworkers mad at them, essentially, or causing trouble in the workplace or facing retaliation, something like that.
Yeah.
If you're asking anybody else, a lot of the time it's fear of being wrong, fear of, making a report when it turns out that abuse didn't actually happen. And to that we say, it's not a bad thing to be wrong. That means they did everything they could to protect the person, and it means that that person was actually safe, which is kind of the best possible outcome.
Right. Okay.
To elaborate more on that, if a report, when you file a report, does the person that you're making the report on, do they know who made the report or inquiry on them? No.
DPPC will not release the name of the reporter or confirm the name of the reporter. It doesn't mean that people can't find out, right? The reporter can tell people, the victim can tell people, people can guess and be correct, but DPPC will not release the name.
Okay. Mario or Jason, you have any questions too after Pauline?
No.
Okay. Pauline, anything else you want to add? Is there
No, just coming from, I'm a mandated reporter,
Mhm.
because of my profession.
Mhm.
And I've worked long enough that from coming from where I sit, I see differently than, say, a family member that might hire someone to just come and help dad or help mom or whatever. And I've been in the position where I've had to hire in the past to have people come in and help my parents. And so I think until, you can give the information there, but I think until a person is actually sitting in the seat where they're observing all of this, I don't think it really makes a whole lot of sense. I think that maybe I'm naive because of my age, but I come from that realm where you try to find the innate good in everybody, and you hate to think that something like that could ever happen. Being a nurse, it happens. Having had people come in to take care of my parents or help them, I do know that has happened. And it's unfortunate. And it's, you know, you're talking about, um, that fine line between what's okay to do and what's okay to not do. And so I think that for people, I think until you're in that position where, you may have a disabled young adult living in your house, say a 24 or 25-year-old, and you do need that respite because you're just so stressed that you're entrusting someone else in that care, and you hope for the best and you don't want to believe that anything bad could happen. But just I think that awareness, just to circulate the awareness out there, is really an important factor. It's not to make people hyper excitable. It's just to make people aware that things can go wrong. And so I think from, like I said, my standpoint, longstanding nurse, other people who are coming into this, maybe new, maybe have never dealt with this before. I think it's just really important to get that information out. So I think that, you know, are there also written materials? Like you've just given us a quick snapshot. Are there other written materials that people can access through your office, like things to look out for or any of that sort of thing?
Um, we mostly give that information through trainings. We do much longer versions of this training.
Okay.
As far as written materials, they're a little more snapshot-like. We have, a trifold brochure, we have a flyer or poster that people can hang up. We have things like that.
I was just thinking of that in terms of like, yes, we're on Zoom and we are televised, but there are a number of people who do not have computer access, do not have access to this. And I'm just thinking if there was some kind of written material that could be just out there, not that we're going to give it to everybody on the corner, but if it were available to people that just wanting to know if that's something that they can access.
Yeah, I would generally point people towards more of the brochure side of things. We don't have like a written guide or anything like that at this point.
Okay.
Now, the brochures is just something that can be downloaded, or does DPCC send any brochure packets to Commission on Disabilities to have on hand for anyone, or is it just as a need basis, or how's that work?
We can do it either way. I can send you a digital version, or we can mail some out to you.
Okay.
If that's something.
Yeah, that's something that,
important.
yeah, that's something that I probably would want.
How many do you think you would need?
I would say just like a 10 to a 10, 12 for right now. Yeah.
Because at least, if we have the
and then I can make
version as well.
copies. Yeah, then if I could always make copies after.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. Well, I'll send you an email to coordinate that.
Okay.
With addresses and such, but we can definitely make that happen.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Mario or Jason, anything to add? Question, concerns, other?
Notebook.
Not that I can think of. I mean, I mean, my only thought is that I wonder if people just aren't reporting enough. I mean, even those that say work at the registry would notice, if you see things that look odd. But I think people are just so afraid to report anything. That's my concern, that it's not just about being wrong. People are very concerned in getting anything put through, because a lot of times you report things. I've reported criminal activity that I've seen people take forever to even bother. So sometimes I just wonder, does it do anything? Sometimes you don't know. I mean, that's the only other thing I can think of. But I'm hoping that this will be, somebody hearing this, maybe something will improve.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, abuse of people with disabilities, not just in Massachusetts, but all over the country, is extremely prevalent and really underreported. So we're really trying to get people to first know that the DPPC is a resource that they can call, and to always err on the side of reporting, even if they're not sure if they're right, even if their concerns.
Well, it's difficult too, because you have institutions, and unfortunately, I'm going to say this respectfully, but even if you see it in churches occurring, it concerns me when you wonder what's happening behind closed doors at a school that's for the disabled. That really is concerning. That there just isn't enough being done, because things are always typically swept under the carpet, or because people can't respond. That's another thing that you'll get judges where, they've turned cases down because people can't respond or do something, or something is taken in a certain way in interpretation.
Yeah, it's definitely a big problem.
One other question, Sarah, is now, is there a ratio that it's physical abuse, or do you also get a lot of reports of financial abuse?
It's a good question. We investigate many different types of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional. That's kind of like bullying, yelling at someone, threatening them. Neglect. Financial abuse is a weird one. Mandated reporters are required to report financial abuse, but we are not allowed to investigate it by law. It's a weird quirk of the law. It doesn't mean we can't do anything with it. Our state police detective unit can take a look at it, and there are other agencies that we can send it to, but we can't assign it an investigator.
Yeah, because I do hear a lot of people that are disabled, that their Social Security incomes and whatnot are being abused by, family members or whatnot. And it's like, where do they turn? Or, or anyone that knows about it, how do you report it? Yeah, you can report it to Social Security, but that doesn't prove, it's an abuse or anything like that. Or if it's not Social Security, any other type of, draining a bank account or anything like that. So it's like, where do they turn for a disabled person who's getting that type of abuse?
Right. And something like that is more likely to be taken up by either our police unit or just the local police, because a lot of financial abuse is criminal, compared to some types of neglect, some types of emotional abuse would not be considered criminal. So that is one place that it can go.
Okay.
Good to know.
Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I want to thank you for your time.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. This is
very much,
informative.
Yes, very much so.
Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hope that was informative, and I'll touch base with her and get some of the pamphlets. And
I think it's important just to have them. If you have them, we won't need them.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it's also important to make sure that that is available for people. Like I said, we're on the computer, we're on Zoom, but there's a whole host of people who do not use that. So I think it's
Exactly.
important to make sure that we have that outreach.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to go to item number 3, which was CPAC April updates and May events. Robert was going to provide any updates because we didn't have anything. Nothing was done up in time for the meeting, but he had let me know that they still have not had any set date for the CPAC election. So there is no updates and events, no updates for April and no events scheduled for May. So there's nothing for CPAC updates or events. So that was item number 3. Item number 4 was CODA, the Commission on Disabilities Alliance, the monthly Zoom meeting that I had on May 4th. There was some discussions by the Cambridge Commission on Disabilities regarding bike lanes and issues they're having and how they're being dealt with. They were having some issues with people complaining about parking spots. But one thing that they're doing in Cambridge, if they take up any spots that were handicap parking spots, they were making sure that they were replacing them as close to as possible to where those handicap spots were for bike lanes. So that's how they're dealing with any of those issues there. Also, some discussions were brought up about regarding the state AAB, which is the Architectural Access Board variance applications, how any applications of the Architectural Access Board was receiving and how they were being sent into the Commission on Disabilities, if different commissions were being made aware of people looking to get variances from the Architectural Access Board. So different commissions were talking about if they do receive them. As the Revere Commission on Disabilities, I am copied on anyone that's applying for a variance from the Architectural Access Board, along with the building inspector. So I know if anything comes up and if there's any questions or issues that I see on them, I can respond to them. But I haven't seen any. There was a couple that I seen with the Red Gate project a few years ago in the old Shaw site, with the type of sinks that they were putting in, but that was clarified, the reason being for how they were doing it, and it wasn't in all the units. It was only limited units that they were doing the under-mounted sinks, so that there was still some of the sinks were okay for handicap accessibility. Another discussion was regarding one of the city's upcoming elections and having accessible voting equipment, and the hesitation because of COVID fears. What was going on, I can't recall if it was Cambridge or Newton that's having an upcoming election, but the fears with the accessible voting equipment is because of COVID. They were hesitant on using it because of the fear of spreading COVID. So the simple solution, believe it or not, that the commission told them to do is just to make sure that they had sanitary wipes available where that equipment was, so that it could just be wiped down every time after every use. You know, it was a simple solution, and it had to come from that city or town's Commission on Disabilities to help let them know that that would be a simple solution. So that's how they came up with that. So that's all I had for CODA for the month of May.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody had any questions or wanted to make any comments on any of that. If not, it was relatively straightforward.
Well, I mean, my concern is that it took a commission to say that somebody lacks, and I mean this respectfully, but common sense.
Yep.
I don't understand. I mean, you wipe up when you spill something. So that just, I can't
Blows your
even, that,
mind.
what's that?
It blows your mind.
Yes, it does. You are correct. And you're looking at, I just can't, and then I wonder, and this is what makes me very upset, is when people with disabilities are not, considered for jobs a lot of times, and people don't look at this. And this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with. And I'm trying to, even where I work, and trying to get them to see common sense of responses to things. So I don't know. This doesn't, I guess this shouldn't surprise me, but I don't know. I don't even.
Yeah, a lot of us commission members that were on that call, we were chuckling about that too.
It just makes me sad to think that people are lacking basic common sense.
Right.
I mean, if you wipe up spill, you wipe up if someone gets sick, you wipe if there's even in the air, sometimes people will cough and you have to spray in the air because you don't know what's there. So why aren't you, I think they were trying to find a reason. I'm going to be honest, bro, but I'm going to say this respectfully, but I think they were trying to disenfranchise the disabled. I really believe that.
Right.
They're not going to tell you that, nor would they ever admit it, just like for jobs. They're not
Yeah.
going to tell you that. They don't tell you why you didn't get hired.
Exactly. Exactly. Item number 5 is updates, next steps from the April meeting. I left this a little open. I said most next steps from the April were tabled until the June monthly meeting because we weren't sure on how long of a presentation we were going to have tonight. But we're more than willing to open any of them if we want. The next thing they had is if Pauline had any updates regarding information about last month's discussion started towards an able-bodied person assuming the daily life situations of a disabled person. I know you're going to look into.
I did. I made some phone calls and I also did a little bit of research back into my archives. And there is nothing that my college had in place. They actually, unfortunately, the professor that spearheaded this is no longer he's no longer here at all. But in looking back, I did keep some notes, and it just looks like it was something that he put together specifically for that class. So I looked and I tried to do a little bit of background research, and everything that I'm reading, it doesn't look like there's any formal program, and it looks like it's something that we could potentially put together, something very, very, just very, very cut and dry, just to get an awareness out there and get some participation and then feedback to see how, what kind of barriers are there and, what people are thinking as they're going through their day and they're not able-bodied or as able-bodied as they've been. So I think that it's something that if we want to go further on this, I think it's something that we'll have to put together. I will continue to do some background research, see if I can find, I'm Google searching every
I
which.
found something that you might be able to help with because of maybe your husband. The MBTA does have a program, and they're just reinstituting it now. They have able-bodied people assume the lifestyles of a person with a disability, and they have a spotter follow them through the transportation network, whether it's a bus or a train, to see the issues that they have, any problems that they have with it. I just seen that is going to be starting again. So they do have some sort of a program. So I have to find some more information on that. Also, our former commission member, Robert Bent, reached out to me because he saw our meeting last time, and he told me BCIL, Boston Center for Independent Living, has a similar program that he was involved in years ago and was called in to help with as a person in a wheelchair, to help people see what it was like to live the life as a person in a wheelchair and also have people. So maybe the Boston Center Independent Living may have some programs, or MOD themselves.
All right, I will look into them. I was looking more to see if anything was written or any program out there, but absolutely, I will look into that because I still think that it's something very viable that we should be doing.
Yeah.
Well, I had brought that up at work, and the only thing is that their concern is that they want us to do it through our employee resource groups, because one of the concerns they had is if we start putting it through as a training, which I don't think can't be I think it's a beeline, if you know what I mean, because it's because the unions are involved, and that's my concern. But you do training on about transgender and everything else. What's the difference? Why can't we? This is part of onboarding. This is part of your yearly training. You need to get people. We need to. I don't know. I think because disabled have been so disenfranchised. That's why I'm very frightened with what's going on with the major court stuff. Because what's next? They could come back and very well chop the ADA backwards, and that would basically undo all the hard work we've just done. And because not every employer is going to be very cooperative, nor can every employer afford some of the equipment. So I don't know. I hope this will help motivate people.
as long as it doesn't get put forth as a training. I think more
Right.
of an activity with maybe, some kind of feedback from the individuals that are involved, not so much, a training program that says, if you see this, do this, a formal training program. I think if we did it as an activity, I don't think. it
Right,
should
yeah,
be-
that's what we would want to do it as an
Right.
activity.
Just as an activity, and it would be purely voluntary. You don't want to do it, don't do it.
Mhm.
I'm sure that there are people who, there may be just enough of a, gee, I wonder what, I wonder how, there might be enough of a thought process. And you don't know, you might reach out and you might get nothing. You don't know about that, but you're not going to know until you try. But I think that if we put it forth as just a voluntary activity, just to see what kind of feedback we get, I don't see any harm in doing it.
Right,
Well,
But-
my thing is that, but if you have sensitivity training for everything else, why are we?
Right.
Do you see my point? Everybody's so afraid to call things out on the carpet. We call everything else on the carpet.
That is true.
I mean, enough already. Disabled have been pushed, shoved, and pushed aside long enough. Most of the people are not working.
Right.
If they're lucky, if they're working, they're part-time, and they're barely trying to hang in there with SSI benefits or SSDI benefits, and they make that complicated. They've ripped that. I've never seen anything so complicated. So many rules. Kind of what they did to IEPs when they started making huge changes. It used to be more simplified, and I don't like when I see that. Make it complicated.
I think we'll continue, I'll continue to do some more research and see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
And I'll have some more information in June. June, yay.
June,
Woohoo.
you know. So that was okay how I did that for, I know that we were gonna be tabling, I have some notes, our discussion, medical conditions, and causing people to need the workforce along where to turn for help. We were tabling that for our next meeting.
Yeah,
But
I think
believe
that's
since
good.
we had this, we'll put that on the agenda for the June meeting. Okay. So that was actually item 5 on the April agenda. So we'll put that onto the agenda for the June meeting.
I forgot.
Got it.
Okay, so item number 6 is just a reminder that the Commission on Disabilities is still looking to fill a vacancy. You can go to the city website, the human resource page, and I believe any vacancies will be listed there. Please feel free to fill out an application if you'd like to join, be a member of the Commission on Disabilities. We'd love to have you. Item number 7 was communications, but we haven't received any communications. Item number 8 is commission members' late items. I don't know if any other commission members have any items that they wanted to discuss that they didn't have a chance to have me put onto the agenda. And if we could basically discuss it and then put it on the agenda for next month. Mario or Jason, did you have anything?
Yep. So I just have one item. I think the ride is making some improvements. They finally put back the proper program, and the ride flex is working, but the problem still now being when you reach out to the office, things aren't getting updated properly. So an example, they're not, when I called them and I said, hey, wait a minute, you put the wrong zip code in here. So they're trying to find a place, and it's not going to match up because the zip code isn't correct.
Okay.
Same location, but not that far. But my point is they're just not updating this stuff, and it's
They're
just
updating it in real time.
right, which they should be. They make it difficult because, an example, if you have a subscription, the call takers are not allowed to update those. They have to send that request to a manager or supervisor to fix that.
Okay.
Which I think is something that I know on your end, maybe you could push a little bit and say, hey, you know, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to fix simple as a zip code. Now, if someone asks for a huge change, I could see that. But I mean, even that,
If something
I
has
mean,
to be changed on the back end, something on the front end, like a zip code, can be changed by anybody you're talking to.
exactly.
Yeah,
And,
you know, a phone number, you know, let's be
right.
really.
Exactly, especially for subscriptions, because that's where the issue becomes. It's not the individual call. Like if I call and I book 5 trips, that's fine. But if I book a subscription and they're only a manager supervisor can touch it. And if there's an incorrect thing with, because they call a Lyft or an Uber and there's a mistake, it's not that easy to get through. And then when you get through, some of these people are rude. I mean, I've run into that. That's a real problem. Or not giving accurate information. That's another thing we find.
Okay.
They'll tell people, yeah, the person's nearby, and it turns out they're just
2 hours
getting
away.
the person that, yeah, exactly. And people miss their appointments.
It didn't tell you where they're nearby at. They're nearby.
They make up stuff, or they pick up the streets,
Yeah.
and you know,
Don't bother with them anymore. Just take just use the lift that they give me.
yeah, it's just
So they're not using, when they know, so what they should basically be doing when they know that they're not nearby, they should be using the lift.
right. And they should be being accurate, but they should also be accurate. They don't have as many drivers, so I don't fault them. As long as you're signed up for Ride Flex, you're covered. It's the people that didn't sign up for it or who choose to not have their subscription set up that way.
Now, have they alleviated the situation with residents who are immobile, that the ride can't pick them up because Lyft and Uber do not have the capabilities of picking up immobile passengers because they need a wheelchair lift?
Right.
Have they figured that out yet?
I think you check off on the box that, and that's the one exception where when you do the Ride Flex, if you are a wheelchair bound or certain scooter type client, that you do sign up for the Flex, they have a way to check off more than one for Lyft and Uber, and they have a way when they see it's for a wheelchair, they can request a accessible vehicle, which they do have access to. Vans. Yeah, they do have that option. Yeah, whether Lyft or Uber has someone available at the moment, I don't know, but there are, because veterans did it. They've had vans that are low floor that you can do, and they're different options. There are some vans if you can shove the seats down. One guy picked me up and he just didn't want people near him because of COVID, so he shoved his seats in the middle down. So you can do that, and that'll, you know what I mean. And it was low enough that a decent wheelchair could get up there. It wasn't, high up. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any late items? Okay, and I don't see any. Item number 9 is residents' concerns or issues. I don't have any on here, but I have been getting some residents calling me about the revitalization of the signalization on Broadway, saying that some of the sidewalks are not ADA compliant, they weren't wheelchair accessible. But I tried explaining to them that the sidewalks were not done yet. They were coming back and repairing them because of the weather, and they had to move the signalizations, especially School Street and Cushman Ave area, and Fennel Street, Beach Street. So I told them, yes, there's a bit of an inconvenience, but they had to wait for different work to get done. But they are in compliant. They will have their 36-inch clear path there, and they will be ADA compliant. So I wanted to let people be aware of that. So they just have to wait till the project is done, and then if it's not done correctly, then it will be brought up to their attention. But we've been out there taking a look at it, and everything is compliant, or will definitely be compliant when it's finalized. So I just wanted to let everyone be aware of that.
Okay.
The The other thing that I just wanted to remind people that the Commission on Disabilities does not make decisions on handicap signs, and just a facilitator on taking the applications and getting the information to the Traffic Commission. A lot of people think that the Commission on Disabilities is solely responsible for approving and denying handicap signs, which we do not. I just facilitate getting the applications and information to the Traffic Commission and giving an opinion if they meet the city ordinances and criteria for that. So I just wanted to let people know about that. Trying to think if there's anything else that I'm not covering. That I think that was it. Also, handicap signs, of course. Even if you do apply for one and are granted a handicap sign, that handicap sign is just not for the person whose house it's in front of, or if you apply for it, it's for anyone can park there that has a handicap sign or a placard. And also any other sign that's on that street takes precedent over a handicap sign. So just an instance, if there's street cleaning, even though there's a handicap sign, you have to move it. If there's resident parking sticker needed, you also need a resident parking sticker on your vehicle and not just a handicap plate or a handicap placard. A lot of people don't want to realize that. And I make sure it's written right in the need to know before you apply for a handicap sign. It states all that. That's not a city law, that's a state regulation that any sign supersede a handicap parking sign. So I just wanted to, again, every once in a while I say that information. And also by Registry of Motor Vehicles, when you renew your handicap placard through the Registry of Motor Vehicles, which is the only entity you can renew your placard, and now what they do is they automatically send you the placard when it's about to expire, so you don't have to contact them. But they also send you a piece of paper that says it is not legal to keep your handicap placard hanging from your rear view mirror. Some cities and towns, they pull you over and give you a ticket. So anytime I see somebody that has one, I try letting them know, because I would hate to see somebody getting a ticket for having a handicap placard hanging from their visor. So it is illegal to have a handicap placard hanging from your mirror while you're driving. It can only be there when you're parked in a handicap parking spot. And also, it is not okay for anyone, I don't care who you are, who you know, what you do, to park in a handicap sign if you do not have a handicap placard or a plate, even if you're waiting for someone. That is not what a handicap parking spot is for, nor are the ladder spots in between handicap parking spots. That's not a special spot for somebody to park in. That is a spot that's designated as a space in between handicap parking spots, so that if a vehicle comes that somebody with a disability needs extra room to get out of their vehicle. I don't know how many times that I have to tell people that, and they don't seem to understand it. Well, I'm waiting for somebody. It doesn't matter if you're waiting for somebody. You do not have a handicap plate or a placard. You do not park in a handicap spot, wait in a handicap spot, park in the lines in between handicap spots, or wait in between handicap spots. That's as clear as that. That's state law. So I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that, but that's my spiel on that.
No, I agree. I mean, there's a factor also that, yes, they will renew the handicap placards. Do not send, and I'm going to repeat this, do not send in a request if you have a permanent placard. It will be sent. If you do that, then we assume you lost it or misplaced it. If you are under a renewal setup and you did not get a permanent placard, you need to wait. Do not use that placard. You will be in violation, and there will be no exceptions. So, and it is a $500 fine minimum for most of the stuff for a placard. So, and that will stop anyone's license. People don't get that, but yes, anything that you owe and don't pay will stop it.
Now, I mean, I've got a question on that, Jason, for you.
Yes.
I know during COVID, they were backed up about 2 months on the new placards that were expired.
Yep.
And they said that you could still use the placard because of their backup.
Right.
So what's the determination?
Not
on that
anymore.
now?
Not anymore now, because
Okay.
now we're caught up. It's
So now it's caught up, so you should receive it, what, is it 2 to 3 weeks before it expires?
correct. They go. They try to do it a little sooner, but typically 2 to 3 weeks prior to expiring. They try to do things early, but if they get a lot of requests, they may get pushed a little bit. But 2 weeks before it expires, that's for the permanent. For the renewals, you are obligated to send those in, and the information has to be checked off. And if someone is expecting a permanent, if your doctor does not check off permanent or does not put enough of information, you may only get a temporary.
Right.
So I'm just making that clear because we get calls on it all the time.
Oh, I get you. You don't know how many calls I get at the Commission on Disabilities for their placards are expired and thinking that I do.
Well, they
them.
don't fill out a lot of stuff. They don't. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we find things and we're like, no, your doctor didn't write the detail on this. But I blame doctors for that too, because they do the same thing with FMLA and intermittent FMLA.
Yeah.
I mean that respectfully, but they're just not. They're not
No.
with it.
Well,
People
the
need
other
to be
thing, too,
trained.
is a lot of these physicians are delegating that off to whichever office staff may or may not have the knowledge. And I'm going to tell you that more than likely, the person that's filling that out, minus the doctor's signature and stamp, either isn't reading it or doesn't have the comprehensive knowledge about what actually has to go on any of those forms. I'm talking both the FMLA, the placard, the whole thing, any of those, because I've filled them out. I know like what I'm filling out, but again, I'm coming from a different place. I'm not coming from an administrative place where the doctor hands something to me and says, just fill it out. Just do whatever you need to do. They don't want to do it. They don't have the time to do it. You're doing more with less. And the people that they're hiring don't have that information. They haven't been trained to do that. So a lot of it's a snowball effect. The doctor didn't fill it out. Well, the doctor's going to come back and say, well, I didn't do it. I had so-and-so. It just keeps passing the buck. So I think the bottom line is to make sure that if you're having that conversation with your physician, and you should be having that conversation with them, you make sure that they understand that if this is not complete or if this is omitted, it comes back to me as the individual who needs that handicap placard because I can't walk more than 20 feet. I have a prosthetic leg. I have whatever other issue is going on. And so I think, again, it's about the communication. It's about getting that information up and running. So,
but it's also but doctors even still sometimes have a lack of knowledge. My
yeah.
doctor was so dumb. He says to me, well, how would you qualify for intermittent FMLA? I said, do you understand there's a difference between FMLA and intermittent FMLA? I mean, truthfully, that's it. I mean, and you can have book smarts all you want. It's the same as a teacher. You can go and you can get that training, but if you can't apply it, what does it mean?
Right.
Yeah, correct. And there's now one other important thing for those that are blind. This is very important. If you have a Mass Commission certificate, submit that with the application, and there won't be an issue. You won't even need a doctor's stuff. You just put out your own information and sign it and send that with it, and just make sure, and they'll approve it. Yeah. So there's not even a question because that's already there. You're never going to drive, so it's not even they're not even going to hesitate on it. It's probably one of the easier ones to do. Yeah. The percentages become an issue because that's the other part of it. So if everyone ever reads it, you'll see how complicated it gets.
Good to know. Thank you for that information.
And, see, I knew there was a good reason why I have you and Mario on here.
Well, I still didn't get my placard.
Oh.
I applied back in February, I think, for January.
Oh,
So I don't know what's going
you
on
might
with
have
that.
got lost. So maybe you should get another one and get a certificate and have Julia give you a hand and send it in because I did mine and it was fine. So
Good. Anyone else have anything else? All right. So I will go to item number 10. And Pauline, you think your internet's still intermittent? You want me to read it or you want to read it?
I should be good.
Okay.
I should be good. So the Commission on Disabilities is working remotely. Residents can speak to staff from our 311 Constituent Service Center Monday through Friday when you call our office at 286-8267. They will be able to answer most questions, but if they are unable to, or you would like a call back from our department, please ask to be transferred to the Disability Office's voicemail, and someone will get back to you as soon as possible. As always, please let us know if you would like something discussed or brought up and added to our monthly meeting agenda. You can let us know if you would like to speak on any issue or concern. The commission is here to help and assist all the disabled residents and families of Revere.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So next steps is Pauline, you're gonna see about finding out any more information
Yep.
on what we're looking to do.
Mhm.
Also we'll be putting item 5 back on the agenda for the June meeting from the April meeting. And other than that, I don't have anything else. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, so made by Jason, second by Mario.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Our next Zoom meeting will be Tuesday, June 7th at 6 p.m. I don't think the high school graduation is that night. I haven't heard a date yet.
I do believe it might be, but I don't. I've heard it's either Tuesday or Thursday.
Okay. So right now, our meeting is June 7th. If anything, it just won't be broadcasted live.
Mhm.
But we'll be on Zoom live and it'll be recorded.
Okay.
All right. So thank
good.
you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.